Hi there, Smart Drivers, talking to you tonight about social driving, the leading cause of traffic crashes on our roadways. So tonight we're talking about social driving. We're talking about why it is the reason for crashes and the number one reason for traffic crashes. We can talk about all kinds of other things, and every authority is going to say to you it's distracted driving, drink driving, speeding, following too close, those types of things, failing to give the right of way, but all of those fall under the umbrella of social driving. And the other piece to this is that social drivers, those that participate in social driving, like to police other people, as I told you there in the introduction. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s. I drove buses for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines in Australia while I was going to graduate school there, doing my doctorate in legal history, which is the study of policing, courts, and prisons. 1997, I became a licensed commercial driving instructor. Most of my career in terms of driving instruction has been with CDL drivers, with air brakes, logbooks, buses, trucks, those types of things. However, I have done a lot of work with cars because you got to know all that basic stuff to teach the higher class licenses. So we've done that. 2006, I graduated with my doctorate in legal history, as I said. And then in 2015, I started the online YouTube channel. And as I said, it's been wildly more successful than I could have imagined. There we go. Okay. Anybody else a lag in sound, as Marion was saying there? Yeah, I noticed that sometimes when I pull the live stream down and I'm editing it, that there is a lag in the sound, which is annoying. But it's one of the beauties of doing live stream from your computer. And hopefully with the new phone, I'm going to be able to fix all of that. But we'll see what happens here. All right, good stuff to have a look at. Driving near semi-trucks, the video there, Corey will put that up for you, and the podcast, 8 Reasons You Will Fail Your Driver's Test. So have a look at those 2 resources as well here on the channel. All right, so the definition of social driving is it is the one thing that unites us as a human race, regardless of religion, creed, politics, is that I am a good driver. We all agree with that statement. I am a good driver. All right, and it unites us as a driving population. Very few people would not say that they are not a good driver. They feel empowered, they feel in control when they're behind the wheel of a motor car. Most drivers follow too close. They're reactionary. They're retaliatory. They hope on a wing and a prayer that they can get their vehicle stopped in time. And you can see here, I was riding with a mate of mine and far too close to the vehicle in front of him. At least it makes me uncomfortable when people are that close to the vehicle in front of them. All right. Drivers stop too close in traffic, and they stop too close to other road users, pedestrians, cyclists. And this is a learned thing. When I have worked with new drivers, they don't realize that they need to be 3 feet, 1 meter or more from pedestrians and other vulnerable road users. Otherwise, it is dangerous, and you are hoping that you can get stopped in time. And if they don't get stopped in time, or they're too close to the vehicle in front of them and they rear end the vehicle in front of them, they blame the vehicle in front of them for stopping all of a sudden. It's not their fault because they were following too close and not managing space well. It was because they were too close to the vehicle. It was because the other person slammed their brakes on. And if you ever hear people talk about traffic crashes, or they've been involved in a crash or a near miss, it was like, oh, this guy did this, or that person did this, and oh my God, did you see what that person did? They're policing other people. They're telling other people what they did wrong, and it's not their fault at all of what happened in the traffic crash. So driving nose to tail, this is one of the other theories about this. This is one of the reasons why we believe there's so many traffic crashes, one of the reasons why we don't get along so well, because we don't communicate with each other well on the roadway. But once you get to a higher advanced level of driving, you're going to realize that before people turn or change directions of their vehicle, they drift to that side of their lane, they drift to that side of the road. So if they're going to turn right, before they turn right, the vehicle will drift to the right. If they're going to turn left, the vehicle will drift left of the lane, and that is an indication of what other people are doing. The other piece about driving nose to tail and poor communication, think of when you're in a grocery store lineup, right, and you're waiting for the clerk. You want to be at the head of the lineup. You want to be the first person to get service. It's the same thing with driving. We don't like being in a queue. We don't like being behind other people. It is part of human nature. So what happens is that people are following too close, and when traffic slows, vehicles are even closer. So the way that you can tell that traffic is slowing down in front of you is the spaces between the vehicles gets closer together. It bunches up. When it bunches up, because everybody is too close, the first person brakes a little bit, the next person brakes a little bit harder. The third person, once you get to the 20th vehicle, the traffic is coming to a stop because everybody is staying too close. So one driver brakes, everybody brakes. And then on freeways, motorways, interstates, you get these phantom traffic jams that happen where traffic comes to a grinding halt, but there's no reason, in fact, why the traffic came to a stop. People stop too close in queues, they get rear-ended, and they don't have bilateral control. In other words, they don't have space in front of their vehicle and they don't have space behind their vehicle. And if you want to implement one strategy, one technique that will make you a safer, smarter driver, have that following distance in the front of your vehicle, which some will say is that 3 to 4 second following distance. But the reality is that no driver anywhere measures following distance of 1 rhinosaur, 2 rhinosaur, 3 rhinosaur. Nobody does that. If you are using the brake to control following distance, you are following too close. The only time that you should be using the brake when you're driving is controlling your speed on a downhill, slowing down for turning traffic in front of you, coming to a stop at traffic lights, or unexpected events. Those are the only 4 times that you should be using the brakes on your vehicle. Otherwise, you are following too close in front. And the reason that I say this again and again and again, and this is my main point about following distance, the number 1 reported crash in North America is rear end crashes. Number 1 in North America, more so even than insurance reported glass damage. Chips on your windshield, cracks and breaks in the glass, and that happens a lot. I'll tell you, I have had a lot over the number of years that I own the Buggy. So rear end crashes are the number 1 crashes in North America. Drivers fail to communicate, they don't signal effectively, they don't honk their horn, they wait till the last minute to make their turn, they don't know where they're going, those types of things, okay? Unpredictable actions are erratic and without warning. This is the other thing that leads to crashes. As we say, and I have video clips here, I'll put these up about drivers merging badly. Bad drivers never miss their exit. Good drivers sometimes miss their exit. This is what we're talking about in terms of unpredictable actions. The other piece in terms of social driving, as a defensive driver, as a smarter driver, we know that it's not a matter of if somebody's going to cut us off, is if somebody's not going to signal. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen, and we're going to be ready for that. Reactionary and retaliatory, and the story about this big jacked up 350 Chevy a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I'll save that story. I'll tell you the story after the presentation. Reactionary and retaliatory, as I was saying before, people are following too close. The person in front slams on their brakes and they rear end them, and then they blame the person in front for slamming on their brakes. Not the fact that they were too close. It's the other driver's fault. And they're policing the other driver and telling the other driver what they're doing wrong. It's like going to the movies. When we see a movie and we critique the movie, we're critiquing other drivers all the time. It is part of social driving. And it is retaliatory because they will get back at you by crowding you, honking, giving you the finger, and all kinds of other aggressive behavior that tells you that you did something wrong. Following too close, failing to give way, and I'm right, you're wrong. This is all part of social driving. So good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Social drivers that participate in social driving, like to police other people's behavior. And they tell them if they're in their way or if they're doing something wrong by honking, crowding them, road rage, following around, those types of things, those aggressive behaviors on our roadways. This is all what we're going to talk about today. So if you're just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what class of license you're going for, any questions you have, how we can help you out to be a safer, smarter driver, pass your driver's license, or start a career as a truck or bus driver. We'll help you with that, all that. Social driving, that's what we're talking about today. It's the way that everybody drives after they get their license, and most people within 3 months of their license are going to be participating in social driving. They're going to be driving too fast, following too close, moving right into the intersection on left-hand turns. Everything that happens in the arena of social driving is contrary to the best defensive posturing. In other words, you are not a good defensive driver if you are participating in social driving. You have to do other techniques and skills which flies in the face of what everybody else on the roadway is doing. So that's going to be a little bit weird for you if you want to learn how to be a safer, smarter driver and reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. So social driving is what we're talking about today. Elevator. Left lane squatters can cause accidents and road rage. Yes, left lane squatters, that is another characteristic of social driving. These people that camp out in the left lane, they think that they just have the right to drive there. So, you know, another characteristic of social driving. I'll definitely add that to the list. Mallory, like you said, the Hurricane Lee was not as bad as was forecasted to be. We got really lucky, and that is awesome. We like to hear that you're safe there on the East Coast, Mallory, for sure. Rocky, summer, so far, summer was really good. Spent some time in Ontario, went to Quebec. Got to spend some tremendous time with my friends there. And yes, definitely good summer for sure. And here at the end of the week on Saturday, we're heading to Australia. So we'll be putting up videos from Australia there when we get down there, down under, mate. Evan, Googled in Washington State practice. Yeah, you're not letting this go. Practice tests, by the way, shop signs are either at busy or closed intersections. Stop signs. Yes, generally at major intersections in residential areas is where you're going to find stop signs. Now, I know you Googled it, Evan, but if you call a driving school in Washington State and say, hey, I want to do a practice driving test in preparation for my road test, they will be able to help you out there in the state of Washington. It may not be up on their website as practice driving test, but they will do a mock road test for you. They will take you out. They will give you feedback on the skills and abilities you have for your driving and those skills and abilities that need to be improved for you to be able to be successful and to pass your driver's test. So just call any driving school and they'll be able to do that for you, Evan. Okay, Nelmick, I'm good. You, my friend? Elevator, my family and I will be going to Ohio next month. Elevator, next state over. Indiana and Ohio are attached at a certain point there, about midway down the Indiana state, they're attached. So it's where it kind of depends where you're going in Ohio. Elevator, are you going over to Cleveland, that kind of the east side of Ohio, or are you going to Cincinnati, kind of Toledo, that area there? Klaus, good evening from Rosenheim County in southeast Bavaria. I am doing fine, my friend, and yourself, how are you doing? Nelmick says he passed his G in first attempt. That is awesome. The G license is the full driver's license in the province of Ontario, for those of you that may or may not know. So the story I was going to tell you about road rage was 10 days ago, and I may have told you the story already. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself. Tracy passed this big jacked up 350 Chevy from Alberta, had Alberta plates on it, which is the next province over from us. It's kind of like Alberta is in Canada what Texas is to the United States. And left lane squatter going through town, and she passed him on the inside. Of course, Tracy's got a sports car, and he chased her all the way for 25 minutes from Winfield to Vernon, and then chased her around Vernon. And then she called me on the phone and she said, well, what do I do? This guy's following me around. And I, of course, said, come to my house. And she pulls in the driveway. And of course, I just kind of stood in the driveway and I'm like, yeah, let's go. I should have stood out at the roadway and got the license plate number off the truck, but I didn't. Anyway, I'm standing in the driveway and he just come up the road, slowed down as he went past the end of the driveway, and he's like, and he yells out the window, he's like, I know where you live, and then drives off. And of course, Tracy made a couple of remarks. I was just kind of standing there waiting to see what was going to unfold. It turned out that the person was just a coward, right? As most of them are, and they're just windbags and they're not really going to say too much. Most of the time in road rage incidents, as I talked to you about previously in other presentations about road rage and whatnot, is the fact that they can only stay angry for a couple of minutes. Okay, it's most of the time it's just going to be a bit of yelling. They're going to get back in their vehicle and nothing is going to happen. People can only stay angry for a couple of minutes, so know that. Do not engage. Okay, do not roll down your window. Do not unlock your car doors. Do not take pictures of them. Simply sit in your car and drive to a public place. If they follow you to the public place, sit in your car, and they will only stand there and yell at you for a couple of minutes because, of course, there's the social pressure of everybody else watching them. So don't roll down your window. Don't unlock your doors. Don't take pictures of them. Do not engage with them in that public place. Okay? Ross, and I know the reason why car crashes is because some people be on their phones and behind the wheel and not paying attention. Actually, Rawson, that is a misnomer. It's actually, phones are not as big a problem as people are thinking that they are. There's a whole lot of other things that are going on in the car. And one of the studies that I was looking at last week on distracted driving was the fact that people, they put cameras in their vehicles. I don't know whether they put cameras in their vehicles and the people know that they're in there, but they found that most people are really distracted because they're reaching for something in the car, whatever that may be, a map, a phone, their purse, something else in the car. But they found that it's not, in fact, phones that cause the most distractions. It's the fact that people are reaching for stuff in the vehicle. Marion, isn't it better to drive to the police station? And exactly that's the question that people have asked me. No, most police stations, contrary to popular belief, are not, there's no staff in the police station. There aren't any officers there. Okay. And even if you do go to a police station, how are you going to get in to get the police? You have to get out of your car, and there may not be a police officer at the police station. So therefore you're in a kind of a conundrum there. No, I don't recommend going to police stations simply because there aren't police there. I mean, if you're in a big city, a metropolitan city and those types of things, then yes, definitely go to a police station. But here in Vernon, you go down to the police station here, or you go to Falkland or some of the other remote places, there may not be police officers in those stations. So not necessarily your best bet. Go someplace public where you can be sure that there's other people around, and do not engage in the prayer of the person getting upset at you. Ross, in the city I liked in Ohio was Uber Heights. Okay. Awesome. DACPA, can we change lanes and roundabouts? Yes, you can, especially if it's a double roundabout and you're in the inside lane and you need to move over to the lane. But again, do all your checks, right? Shoulder check, signal, minimum 3 flashes on the signal, check again, and then move your vehicle over. Nelmick, yes, I have been to Saskatchewan. I have been through Saskatchewan. I can't say I've ever stopped there and visited, but I have been through Saskatchewan. Carrie, turning right from a minor road onto a major road, if a lot of cars are in the left lane and none are in the right lane, is it safe to turn right or not, since the driver can change lanes unexpectedly? Let me contemplate that. I'm not following what you're asking me, Carrie. So you want to change, you're at a roadway with a through lane and a right turning lane. Is that what you're asking me? Yeah, you're going to have to, can you reword that for me, Carrie? Because I don't quite understand what you're asking me. Elevator City's going to Norfolk, Norwalk. Where is Norwalk? I'm not familiar with that elevator, where that is in Cleveland. Joe, hello. I am glad to inform you that I passed my driver's test exactly on the 1st of September. Thanks for all you do. Please, I have a little donation to make to your little live program. Kindly send the details. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Joe. And thank you for reminding me this. If you want to make a donation to the channel, look down in the description. I'm not sure if it's here in the description, but there is a link to my PayPal, and you can make a donation there on my PayPal, which is tremendously appreciated. Now, it's not required to be part of the Smarter Driver community that you make a donation, but it is incredibly appreciated and does help us to continue to make videos and help you out and do the live streams and those types of things. So thank you so much for that, Joe. I appreciate it. Klaus and Fine, me and my mom are going on the map left to Baden. That's in West Germany, to Bodensee. Bowden Lake. That's about 250 kilometers away. That sounds like an awesome trip. Any trip to the lake is going to be tremendous. And yes, and I was looking at images of Hall's Gap in Victoria, Australia, where we're going, and I am excited now. We're Tuesday, it's going on Saturday, so we will be there in a week. Of course, we lose a couple of days going there. We leave on Saturday night. It's a 15-and-a-half-hour flight from Vancouver to Sydney, and then we got a day's drive up to Victoria. But I was looking at pictures of it and remember the gum trees and just the Grampian Mountains. It's just going to be so exciting. I'm just really excited to go back. It's like I said, I left in 2006, so really great. Elevator fan, I got tailgated through a school zone yesterday during the school zone speed limit. I felt like I had to tap the brakes. Yes, and sometimes that is a good thing to do, is to just tap your brakes, flash your brake lights, tell the person to get off your tail, because people, and it's going to be more apparent the slower you go. In school zones, for example, when you slow down and are driving slow, people are going to drive closer to you because they think they have a bigger reaction time. It's just part and parcel of driving. So that's what's going to happen. And Corey's put up those videos for you to have a look at. Definitely have a look at those. Thank you for that, Corey. Evan, cars on the side of a narrow road without parked cars have the right of way over those on the side with parked cars. Both sides of parked cars, nobody has the right of way over the other. Okay, cars on the side of a narrow road without parked cars have the right of way over those on the side with parked cars. Evan, where did you get that information? Because I haven't seen that information before in any handbook about that rule. So if you could give me a source, that would be awesome. I really appreciate that, my friend. Nalmic, have I been to all provinces and territories? No, I haven't been to all provinces and territories. I haven't been to Yukon or the Northwest Territories, but I've been to every other province except Prince Edward Island. I lied. I haven't been to Prince Edward Island, so haven't made it there yet. Norwalk is 1 hour west of Cleveland and 1 hour east of Toledo. 1 hour west of Cleveland. Okay, so it's between Toledo and Cleveland. All right, I know where you are, and it's on the lake there. Marion, that's exactly what I have issues with. If I am on a side road onto a major 2-lane road, most of the vehicles are in the left lane, but when it is safe to turn right onto the road. Okay, now I understand. All right, so you're going from a residential road out onto a major road, and it's 2 lanes on the major road. It's piled up backed up in the left lane, but you can still turn right onto the inside lane. Now I understand. Thank you for clarifying. So yes, you can turn into the right-hand lane. Now, what I suggest to you is to try and turn into the spaces between the cars in the left lane. Don't move in. Don't turn in beside a vehicle that's in the left lane. Try and turn into the spaces between the cars. I mean, sometimes that's not possible because it's congested and backed up, but that's what you want to try and do. Move into the spaces between the cars in the left-hand lane. Yes, you can absolutely do that. Thank you for clarifying. Eric, do I need to reduce speeds in a work zone even if there are no one working there, like on Sundays? Eric, you would need to look at the legislation, the road legislation, Highway Traffic Act, that's what I was trying to think of, for your particular state or province. My understanding is that the signs that I have seen for construction zones, fines are doubled when workers present, which indicates to me that when those signs are in construction zones, that you only have to slow down when workers are present on Sunday. Now, saying that, Eric, my first video that I made on driving in the rain, was on a Sunday, coming back on the Trans-Canada Highway. Well, actually, it wasn't on the Trans-Canada Highway. It was on the Coquihalla Highway. The Trans-Canada at that junction is different. I was on the Coquihalla Highway driving in the rain. It was under construction. There were no workers present, and there were speed signs. But of course, it's Sunday. There's no workers present, and I was driving the speed limit, and of course the speed is in the video, and I had quite a number of comments saying that I was speeding in a construction zone, even though there weren't any workers there. So my thing to you would be to look at the Highway Traffic Act, see what it says about construction zones and whether you have to slow down or whatnot. But my understanding is the work zones are only in place when workers are present in the construction zone. So I would need to look that up for you, okay? Emily, question, can you outline some key items to have in your car kit as we approach the winter season? Emily, absolutely can do that. And my friend Big Mac Sam is here from the Bronx. How are you, my friend Big Mac Sam? Okay, so winter driving kit. If you are driving a lot on highways and outside of city areas in the winter time, it is recommended that you put a winter kit in your vehicle. Now you can buy some prepackaged ones from, Home Depot, Canadian Tire, Walmart, those types of things, and off Amazon, obviously. I do have a video up here, I think on a winter survival kit. Corey will put that up for you. Now, some of the things that go in your winter survival kit: cell phone charger, cable. Okay, you need to have some way to charge your phone in the wintertime, because if you're going to call for help, you need to have your cell phone charged. Now, most of us in this day and age, we all have USB ports in our cars, and we have charging cables, and our phone is in there on the holder and those types of things. Have that, okay? You should have a candle, some sort of blanket in your vehicle. You should have a pot so you can melt snow, so that you have water, because water is going to freeze and those types of things, right? So you need to heat up the thing, and you only need a candle with a pot on it. Put a bit of snow on it, or your ice and that sort of thing, and then you can melt it and you can have water, okay? Non-perishable food. You want a shovel, maybe some traction mats. A lot of these kits will come with shovels in the winter survival kit, and maybe next week this is what I'll do. I'll do a whole presentation on winter driving and survival kits and what goes in a survival kit for you, and give you that information. You could put a tow cable in there to get yourself pulled out if you slide off the road into a snowbank or those types of things. Now, what else was I thinking? Jumper cables if you kill the battery or your vehicle won't start, or those types of things. There is a video here on the channel about how to hook up battery cables. Battery cables are quite simple, okay? Red to positive, black to negative. Hook it up to the dead car first. Hook up the positive to the running vehicle. And then when the person's in and they're ready to go, then hook up the negative post, and then start the car that the battery's not working on, okay? So those are some of the things. Prescription medications, okay, that's the last thing. If you're on prescription medication that you cannot do without, make sure that that is in your winter survival kit for the winter time, for driving out on roadways and those types of things. And Corey's put up the video there on boosting a dead battery if you leave your lights on, or it's just too cold that your vehicle won't start and you need a boost. Now, if you don't have anybody that you can call, or you don't have another vehicle, you can call taxis, okay? They will give you boosts for 25 bucks or whatnot. Or most of you, as I say, in the winter time, if you're not good with changing tires or giving your vehicle, your battery a boost or those types of things, AAA, the CAA, the Canadian Automobile Association, the American Automobile Association, every country in the world has an automobile association that it's only like, $100 a year, $120 a year. I don't know, maybe with an inflation, all of these memberships have gone up. I went to Staples today to buy graph paper, and it was 100 sheets of graph paper in a loose packet, and I took it up, and I was kind of looking at the prices on the shelf, and I thought, oh, these are pretty pricey. And went to the counter, and she rang it in. It was $10. $10 for 100 sheets of graph paper. And I was like, yeah, you can keep that. You can just keep it. And I went to the dollar store and got it for 2 packs for $3. I was like, how does Staples stay in business? I was just like, I was floored at how expensive it was. And then, of course, the dollar store is making record profits. It's not surprising that they're making record profits when at Staples it's $10 for 100 sheets of graph paper, and at the dollar store it's $3 for 200. I digress. All right. Carrie, thank you. Bricks for Wheels helping clarify what I was trying to ask Rick. Appreciate that. Thank you, Carrie. For your patience and me getting to understand what you were asking me. Lone Wolf, love the content. Thank you, my friend. There was a couple of housekeeping things that I was going to talk about. One of them was, if you want to make a donation to the channel, go down in the description, and the link to my PayPal account is there. Thank you for that. What else are we doing? Yeah, there won't be a live stream for the next 2 weeks because, as I said, we're off to Australia. and we're shooting videos in Australia. So there'll still be videos that will go up, and we'll still be there doing doing stuff on the community tab and whatnot, but no live streams for the next 2 weeks. All right. Carrie says kitty litter, snacks, fluids topped up. Yes, all that stuff as well. Kitty litter will definitely help you with traction and whatnot. As I said, some of these winter survival kits come with traction mats and those types of things. I don't know how good that is. That's the piece that I was going to tell you. Okay, if you get stuck, okay, don't sit there and keep spinning the tires. If you're stuck, you're stuck. Okay, because what's going to happen is you're going to dig it in deeper and you may not get it out. Now, Corey will put up the video for you on 4th or 5th video with Willie, where I was teaching him to rock the vehicle if you get stuck in a bit of snow, right? Like if it's not too bad or you're not like off the bank into the ditch and whatnot. So that will maybe get you out as well too, right? Okay. Big Mac Sam says membership for the AAA is $100 a year, so that's a really good deal. Corey, somebody else said it was only $60 for CAA, so all of this is a really good deal, okay? If you need a boost in your batteries, Jim, actually, sorry, thank you, for the BCAA here in British Columbia is $60 a year. So really inexpensive to get yourself a membership, get roadside assistance. They'll come out, they'll bring you fuel. If you run out of fuel for whatever reason, I mean, I know fuel is crazy stupid, expensive right now, and you might run your vehicle out of fuel. They'll bring you fuel out, they'll boost your battery, change your tires, those types of things, give you a tow. I think for $60 a year, that's probably the base membership, and I think it might only be like 100 kilometers. If you get the premium one, then you get 300-kilometer tow to the nearest station and those types of things. All right. Robert, 2 lanes wide, so only go if the right lane has a gap. In cars, you can stick beside while accelerating. You don't ever want cars in the next lane with a 50-mile-an-hour differential. Avoid that. Yes, speed differentials. That's another reason that you're going to get into trouble. Klaus, 100 miles an hour is already speeding. The recommended speed is 130 kilometers an hour. I think we're talking about the Autobahn there in Germany. Yes, for sure. Elevator, be sure to increase your following distance when visibility is reduced, and that is absolutely true. The following distance, the ideal following distance is under good conditions, right? Clear roads, sunny days, good traction, those types of things. As traction deteriorates, as visibility deteriorates, road conditions deteriorate, all of that is going to cause you, or should cause you as a smarter driver, to increase your following distance behind other vehicles and near other road users, so that will keep you safe. Eric says that there at Costco in Minnesota, fuel is $3.75 a gallon. $3.75 a gallon. Somebody can do the math for me on what $1.79 is a liter compared to an American gallon. I suspect that $1.79 a liter is probably close to $8 a gallon as opposed to $3.75. Now, Costco in Alberta has like super cheap fuel. I know that it's like 40 cents a liter cheaper in the next province over from here in British Columbia. But right now we're paying $1.79 a liter, which is, I think it's around $6 to $7.50 a gallon. But yeah, Eric, I wish it was $3.75 a gallon here. Ross, and I'm planning on doing my driving test in the winter, and that is awesome. Definitely do your driver's test in the wintertime. It's going to be easier, especially if you have snow-covered roads, and you can go a bit slower than that. So, Epic, my friend, here's another thing. Motorcycle scooters drivers will try to cause a crash if they will drive on the sidewalk. Happens frequently in urban areas. Need awareness campaigns for that. Oh, so this is something new that now motorcycles, instead of driving up between the lanes of traffic, are now driving on sidewalks. Well, that's really, really unsafe. Not to mention it, makes it challenging to walk on the sidewalks. I find it challenging enough walking on sidewalks with the e-scooters and kids on bicycles and those types of things. It's just, there is I was telling you a few weeks ago about road rage incidents. I mean, I'm fine in the car. I'm all good. Yeah, just go whatever. Do have your crash somewhere else. But when I'm walking or I'm on my bicycle, I am 0 to 1,000 in like in a nanosecond. And my friend who lives upstairs, my mate Alex, we were walking down the road one day and he comes up behind us and we're crossing the road. And as we were crossing the road, he honked at us and he honked at us. And I was just like, I just glared at him. I'm just like, yeah, don't honk your horn. So yeah, not good when I'm walking around my bicycle. Mallory, like Alberta be next to BC, next New Brunswick is next to Nova Scotia. That is absolutely right, Mallory. It's the next one over. It's the first of the 3 prairie provinces. So you have Alberta, Saskatchewan, and then Manitoba. And of course, British Columbia is the last one out on the west coast here. Eric, 2.2 liters per gallon. That seems a little low. I thought it was like 3.7 liters to the gallon. I could be wrong, but that's my thinking anyway. Eric says that snow tires help in the wintertime, and yes, they absolutely do help in the wintertime. And if you are doing a lot of driving, for example, you're going up and down to the ski hill and driving back and forth, or you're driving on the highways in the wintertime and they have hard pack and those types of things, definitely consider winter tires on your vehicle. If you're just staying in the city, you're going to be just fine on all season tires that are rated MNS, which is mud and snow, or they have the mountain snowflake symbol on them. They were talking about last year they got a dump of snow in Vancouver, which is something they don't ever get. It's like Seattle, Washington. They don't ever get snow there in Seattle, Washington. And of course, they were all up in a tizzy about it after they had a dump of snow. And they should just do what North Carolina does, where everybody just goes home for the day, because they only get snow once or twice a year. They're all like, oh, transit buses need winter tires. So, oh yeah, this is something that taxpayers need to pay money on, is to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on snow tires for transit buses. That makes about as much sense as screen doors on a submarine. It just boggles my mind, so that bus drivers can be safe once a year or twice a year. What we absolutely need to do rather is just shut the place down, everybody go home and come back the next day. Is our life really that crazy? Is our world that crazy that we cannot take a few hours off on the transit so that people can go home and just be safe? I mean, come on. 3 years ago, we shut the whole world down for 2 months. I think we can handle one day of people not going to work and whatnot. Corey says $3.75 per gallon is the same as $1.03 per liter. Okay, so there you go. So what is it the other way, Corey? If it's $1.79 per liter, how much is it per gallon, per U.S. gallon? You make sure you put in U.S. gallon, because there's a difference between an imperial gallon and a U.S. gallon. Okay, it has to be a U.S. gallon. Eric says top snow tires are Bridgestone. That's good to know that they are good tires as well. Me personally, I prefer Michelin's, but I'm not sponsored by Michelin, but I personally like Michelin tires. I wish they still made the size for my vehicle, but they don't, unfortunately. Marion, when do you change the tires to winter tires, Rick? Me personally, Marion, I wait until the first snowfall and then I change my tires. Now, most people, as of the middle of October, will be in the shops, and the shops will be crazy busy changing over to winter tires. That's a personal preference. Last year, of course, we got snow in November, so I changed them over in November. But like I said, it's usually December when we get our first snow, and I wait until then before I put my snow tires on the vehicle. So you could do that for sure. Marion, Yike, that's still cheaper than here in Vancouver. Yes, I think it's over $2 a liter in Vancouver, isn't it, Marion? Carrie, glad you cover safe driving during the winter, because if I need to drive on really slick, icy roads, it makes me anxious. You're going to be just fine, Carrie. Keep in mind that in the winter time, or any time that it's slippery, if it's raining or it's freezing rain or snow and ice and those types of things, the time that you're going to get in trouble, curves, corners, and turns. Anytime that you change direction of the vehicle, that's when you're going to get into trouble. And I was talking about this, I believe it was last week or the week before. A couple years back, I was going to Vancouver Island. I have a house there, a rental property, and I was going up to Kamloops, which is 97C, and went around a corner, and I was just going a little bit fast, and as soon as I come around the corner, I felt the back end go loose, and I just thought to myself, here we go, and it went around a circle 3 times. Now, there wasn't any other vehicles on the roadway, and just kind of backed into the snowbank, and I was fine, and it's just like, oh yeah, that happened, and then we went again. Now, on another time, something weird really happened, and I was coming back from Calgary, and I had to do an evasive maneuver because somehow a car ended up in my lane. I don't know what happened, but I was just like yanked the steering wheel down, and the whole vehicle went in the direction I wanted it to go, and I just thought to myself, if this breaks loose, if I break traction, this is going to be bad, because I was doing 120 at the time, 120 kilometers an hour, which is 72 miles an hour. But it didn't. The car held, and I did have winter tires on the vehicle at the time. The benefit of winter tires is that it has a softer rubber compound. So in the winter, when it gets cold, it still stays flexible and is able to grip the ice and snow. Now, if you're driving on hardpack, as I said, up and down the mountains, driving in the mountains here, or you're driving in Washington State or Idaho, Montana, places like that, then you definitely want to consider putting studded tires on your vehicle, because if you're driving on hardpack, the studs actually dig into the ice and snow and will give you much, much better traction. So if you're doing that, then consider putting studs on your tire as opposed to winter tires. Winter tires are good, but not as good as studs. Now, I've had steel studded tires on my vehicle. The downside of steel studded tires is they're incredibly noisy, and the studs are really hard on the road surface, and they will only last 3 years at the most for studs before you have to replace them. Corey says USD $4.93 per gallon, same as Canadian $1.75. Okay, I thought it was a lot more than that, but still it's $5 a gallon as opposed to $3.75. So it's a little bit more expensive for sure. Emily, do you think you'll ever retire the Honda? Emily, I don't think so. Unless the engine goes, then I might really think about it, because I priced out rebuilding the engine on it, and the engine is $6,000. And I just think to myself at that juncture, I'm like, I could put $6,000 into a vehicle I really want. But at this juncture, the engine keeps going. I change the oil in it every 4,000 kilometers, every 2,500 miles in it, just because it's an old car and it's been recommended to me that you change the oil more regularly in it. The next thing I have to do is put a clutch in it. The clutch is going to be either soon or next spring or summer. I'll have to put a new clutch in it. Well, a clutch is $1,700. I already priced it out for a clutch. But if the engine keeps going in the drivetrain and there's nothing kind of thing in it, I think I've replaced most of the parts on the vehicle now. So I don't know whether I'll just keep going with it or not. At this juncture, I don't foresee it. I just think it'll keep going. Mallory, when you're driving around on bald tires, is your cue to go to the garage to get them replaced? Yes, you really should. And you're going to know, because the car's going to slip and slide around if you've got bald tires on it, or tires that need to be replaced if they're down to the wear bars. And if you watch the video with Gavin, the first driving lesson with Gavin there a couple years ago, his aunt's car actually had tires that needed to be replaced. And some years ago, I was looking at a Honda Civic, and I took it out for a test drive. And of course, there was still a little bit of snow on the ground. There wasn't a great deal, but I come out of the parking lot and I stepped on it, and of course the tires spun, and I thought, well, that's kind of weird, the tires spun. So anyway, I took it for a drive. Everything was fine. It was front wheel drive, and come back, and of course I looked at the tires, and the tires all needed to be replaced, and I was like, oh, that's why it's spinning. Because keep in mind, for those of you who are having some anxiety about winter driving, all vehicles in this day and age are going to be front wheel drive, they're going to be all wheel drive, or they're going to be four wheel drive. I don't even think that there are any vehicles anymore that aren't one of those things. I don't know any auto manufacturer that produces a rear wheel drive vehicle in this day and age. Maybe some of the smart drivers out there, or people watching on the replay, know of a vehicle that is manufactured as a rear wheel drive vehicle, but I can't think of any. They're either all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, or 4x4 vehicles. So you're going to have really good traction on your vehicle, even if you have tires that aren't good quality tires. Excuse me. So know that because of the drivetrain, you're going to have good traction on your vehicle. Eric, I thought studded tires were illegal in U.S. roads. Most places, Eric, they are going to be illegal. Now, there may be exceptions. For example, here in British Columbia, we have exemptions that we can have steel studded tires on our vehicles. They have to go on in October, and I believe they have to be off by the 31st of March. And it might be the same in places like Montana, Idaho, and Oregon, where they get a lot of snow in the mountains. They may have an exception to that rule to having studded tires on the vehicle, just because they get a lot of hard pack and they get a lot of ice on the roadways and whatnot. So there may be an exception to that, but you're right. Most places in the US, most provinces here in Canada, it is illegal to run studded tires on your vehicle. I know you can't run studded tires in the province of Ontario and most other places, but some places will allow you to have that. How to control steering shaking. If you have shaking when you're going down the roadway and your steering wheel is shaking like this when you're going down the roadway, that suggests there's something wrong with the car, and you probably need a wheel alignment on the vehicle to have that fixed. That probably represents something wrong with your vehicle or with your tires on your vehicle. So take it to a shop and get them to have a look at it for you, my friend. Cody, what's the best way to learn parallel parking and 90-degree back parking? Cody, the best way to learn that is to go to a parking lot and practice in the parking lot, or go to a residential area that doesn't have a lot of traffic and work in the residential area so that you're not dealing with other traffic and those types of things, okay? So just go to a parking lot. For example, we have a parking lot here that has a cinema. During the day, there isn't any traffic at all in that parking lot, and you can go there and work in the parking lot. Now, if you want to get really keen, you can go and get some of those 1 meter tall, 3 foot tall delineators, and you can use some of those delineators, and Corey will put up the video for you on fundamentals of learning to drive, and that all of that will help you with backing into a parking space and doing parallel parking. And as well, what was the other thing I was going to... when you're backing into a parking space, start off by backing in beside another car, and that will be a lot easier, because if you're just trying to get in between the lines, that's pretty tough, especially if you don't have a backup camera in your vehicle. If you have a backup camera, it's super easy to get in between the lines because you can just look in your backup camera. Now, for the purposes of a driver's test, you can use a backup camera, okay? You just can't use it as your primary line of sight. You still have to look out the back, the rear window when you're backing up. So know that for the purposes of your driver's test. For backing up, you can use a backup camera, you can use your mirrors, but you do have to look out through the back window. And I was asked, somebody asked me on a comment if they could use one hand when they're reversing. That is the one time that, yes, in fact, indeed, you can use one hand on the steering wheel to reverse. That's the one exception to the two hands on the steering wheel for the duration of your driver's test. Corey's put up the list saying that 6 states permit the use of studded tires without any restrictions: Colorado, Kentucky, New Hampshire, New Mexico, Vermont, and Wyoming. I'm actually surprised that Washington State and Idaho and Montana are not on that list, but interesting, it's those places. I really didn't think that New Mexico and Kentucky would get enough snow to warrant studded tires. Those 2 states are interesting, but of course there's no exceptions. There's no kind of understanding the way that bureaucrats make laws. Corey's the 10 states prohibit the use of studded tires. There's the 10 states, and then of course these other states here do allow it. Epic, for a rear-wheel drive, it might Mazda 3. Okay, so we have a Mazda 3 that might be a rear-wheel drive vehicle. Other than that, it's all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, and four-wheel drive, which is tremendous traction for the wintertime. Jim, a good sign that you did well on your road test is when you get back to the test center, the instructor asks you to reverse stall park into the spot to finish the test. And that is correct, Jim. On the majority of driver's tests, if they get you to back into the parking space at the end of the test, that means that you most likely passed. Now, one caveat to that. when you reverse park behind most of the parking spaces where they have reserved for the people who are taking their test, there's usually a concrete barrier there, okay? Do not strike the concrete barrier. Striking the concrete barrier is an automatic fail on your driver's test. Know that, okay? So, stay out a little bit from the concrete barrier. Don't risk backing into that because, as I said, striking a fixed object is an automatic fail on your driver's test. Jim, I have a rear-wheel drive pickup truck. Not looking forward to driving it in the winter time. Jim, you must have a fairly old pickup truck. I can't remember the last time I saw a pickup truck that was just two-wheel drive, but interesting. Okay, Cody, is there a good way to learn without a car, just like watching your videos? Cody, the best way to learn how to drive is in a car. Unfortunately, no, there's not really a good way to learn how to drive without being in a car because there's just so many things. There's so many senses and physical touch and feel that are going on with the car that it's going to be pretty tough to learn how to drive. I mean, video games, watching videos, those types of things, definitely all going to help. But the best way to learn how to drive is to actually get in the vehicle and drive, my friend. Klaus says rear-wheel drive is a Mercedes C-Class or E-Class. Okay, so Mercedes still makes a rear-wheel drive and Mazda still makes a rear-wheel drive. So there are a few rear-wheel drives out there. I'm not sure why you would want one in this day and age, especially if you're buying a high-end Mercedes. If I was buying a high-end Mercedes, I would want all-wheel drive. I would not want a rear-wheel drive car. I mean, unless I'm going into a drifting competition or something like that. But for the most part, no, I want an all-wheel drive vehicle. Eric, do diesel cars do better in winter versus gasoline cars? Eric, no. Diesels don't like the cold at all. I mean, gasoline engines don't like the cold either. And, you know, once it gets down to minus 20 degrees Celsius, minus 30 degrees Celsius, I mean, you're plugging the car in all the time in the wintertime. At least you should be. Okay, so, yeah, diesels, I mean, they'll work, but you have to put, what's it called? Diesel, you have to put an additive into the diesel fuel to stop it from gelling, because if it gets too cold, the diesel fuel will actually gel because there's wax in the diesel fuel and it will actually freeze and you get this big glutinous mass in your fuel tank. So the other piece, if you are in one of those places in the world where it gets super cold, you're on the prairies, you're in Montana, Wyoming, those types of places where it gets down to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Where do the two scales meet up? I think it's minus 30 where Celsius and Fahrenheit are the same thing. Anyway, when it gets down to those stupid temperatures, you have to keep the fuel tank full because there's a certain amount of water in your tank. And when your tank is down, what happens is that the water condenses, it becomes water, it's no longer vapor, and then it freezes, and this is what caused the fuel lines and those types of things to freeze up. So in the wintertime, you got to keep your fuel tank full, and you have to plug it in. Now, in some crazy instances, you'll have a block heater, which keeps the engine warm in the wintertime so that it'll start properly. Now, in some crazy instances, I mean, ice road truckers and those types of things, they put wraps around the engine to keep it warm and whatnot with diesel engines. Diesel conditioner, that's what it's called. You have to add conditioner to the fuel tank so it doesn't freeze in the wintertime. Okay. Eric, Jim, I got a great deal on an old work pickup truck. I couldn't pass it up. There you go. Okay, and Eric says the Audi Q5 is also a rear-wheel drive. So what you need to do, Eric, if you got yourself a rear-wheel drive pickup truck that you got a great deal on, take a couple of bags of sand, a couple 100 pounds of sand, and put those in the back of the box, and that'll give you a bit more traction. I mean, that's what we did when I was kids. I mean, my dad had two-wheel drive pickup trucks that he drove in the wintertime all the time, and that's what he did. He just put a couple 100 pounds of sand in the back right over the wheels to get better traction. So that's what you can do. Marion, I didn't know that, so she was happy with me straight off then. Okay, probably answering something else that I wasn't aware of. But anyway, okay. Lots going on. Diesels don't like cold weather. No, they don't. No, they don't. We had the big truck back when I was driving. The one time we ended up on the prairies and I think it went down, if I recall correctly, it was minus 40. We filled the truck with fuel. We put diesel fuel conditioner in it. The truck stayed running all night. We did not put the brakes on the truck. We cranked down the dollies on the trailer to hold it in place so that it wouldn't roll away. If we had wheel chocks, we would have put wheel chocks on it, but we didn't apply the parking brakes because it went to minus 40. And we left the truck running. We still filled the fuel tanks, the diesel fuel tanks, and we put conditioner in the fuel so that it wouldn't freeze. And of course, we didn't have one of those covers for the front of the grill. So we had to take the floor mats, the rubber floor mats, and tie them in front of the radiator to get any heat out of the truck. Same thing a couple years ago, and I should have done this. We took the buggy, and we got up in the morning. We were going to Calgary. We stayed overnight in Golden, and we got up the next morning. It was minus 35 when we got up, and that poor old buggy was just like, oh, do I have to? It was just like, and it started, but it was an hour and a half before we got any heat out of it. And it was the same thing. I should have gotten a cardboard box, and got a piece of cardboard and stuck it down in front of the radiator to try and get some heat out of the vehicle, because it took a long time before it heated up. But, good old buggy did. Marion, sorry, we were talking about the driving test and the instructor asked you to back into the parking spot. Oh, okay, no worries, all good. All good, it's great. Thank you for letting me know, Marion. Cody, I should say, in the US, can you use one hand for a straight line backup? Yes, you can. That is the one time that you're allowed one hand on the steering wheel. Zay, semi-trucks with automatic transmissions supposed to have an option selected gear shifting. I mean, why semi-trucks? They did not add lower gears. All my understanding with all automatic transmissions, you can shift them manually and you can get them into a lower gear. So just look at the owner's manual for your truck, how to figure out the automatic transmission, and that will keep you safe, especially when you're going downhill and those types of things in the wintertime. Klaus, we had a 1991 Mercedes E-Class and a wagon. Back then, rear-wheel drive in the wintertime, yes. Rear-wheel drive without traction control, those types of things. So lots going on there with rear-wheel drive vehicles. Okay, so we got a lot talking about winter driving and those types of things, all part of social driving. We've got that coming up here in the wintertime. And the speed to drive in the wintertime is the speed everybody else is driving if roads are snow-covered and crazy and there's lots of snow and ice and whatnot. Drive the speed that everybody else. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Congratulations to everybody that passed their test in the last couple of weeks. Good luck on your driver's test for those of you coming up in the next week or so. And if you have any comments, leave a comment down in the description there. And again, if you want to make a contribution to the channel, helps us to make videos and keep going forward. Great information presented. Look at the PayPal account down in the description. You can make a donation. Not required, but always appreciated. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.